Yo, Nation, what's up, y'all? Stoked to have you guys here. We're getting set right now, and we're recording this live. This is gonna be on the pod, but of course, for you YouTubers, it's a fun way to hang out on a Thursday night. Here with Jason from the Mash and Drum Whiskey Room, and we're just gonna talk about him after we do a little Evan Williams tasting. We're gonna hear from Jason about his story, his journey in really becoming one of the more well-known personalities in the whiskey tube, and rocking some pretty awesome, pretty in-depth content on his channel. So Jason, dude, thank you for joining. Really appreciate it. And
thanks for the invite. I really appreciate you having me on. Been definitely following your content, since probably not like right when you started, but a little bit after, and some of your videos. I thought one of the best videos you did was on the secondary market and the effect and how that started. I thought that was a really good video. So yeah, I'm glad to be on here.
Thanks. Yeah, that video was pretty well received. That was one of those things in the whiskey industry, that gets talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But I hadn't heard anybody try and break down more the economics behind why. And I just love economics. I'm kind of a geek when it comes to that stuff. Moneyball
Yeah.
is like my favorite movie. So that was a fun video to make for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're not going to waste any time. We'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions. So those of you in the chat, if you have questions for Jason as we go, definitely throw them into the chat, the place that you would put your questions, and we'll circle.
The place you type things.
Yeah, right. Use your fingers, touch the keys, and that'll be good. We'll come back to those as we go throughout tonight, but we're going to start with this Evan Williams tasting. And then I've got some news once a few more folks have jumped on that you guys are probably going to want to know related to how you can get some dope whiskeys. But the first thing we were going to get to tonight, as I said, is this Evan Williams taste off. So what we have, Jason and I both have these. We've got Evan Williams Black, which is 86 proof. It is Heaven Hill Distillery. And we have Evan Williams Bottled in Bond, 100 proof, obviously non-age stated, but we know it's at least 4 years because it's bottled in bond. And the reason we're tasting this tonight is because when we had Dave Jennings, Rare Bird 101, on the channel, he had thrown out kind of a hot take of, hey, I think, sometimes people get caught up in bottled in bond that somehow it's better. He said an example would be Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. He said, I actually think the black is better because it's probably got some higher age stocks, whereas the white label is almost certainly a little bit younger because it has to all be the product of one distilling season. So they're probably not going to bottle 6-year, 8-year bottled in bond. It's probably 4 or 5 years. I'm like, oh, you know what, Dave, that's pretty interesting insight. Let's taste them side by side. And, Jason, having a lot of experience rocking reviews and whiskey comparisons, wanted to get his take on this as well, because Brian and I can just argue a whole lot. So I wanted to get, so we don't necessarily share palate preferences always. Thankfully, when we did our first round of barrel picks, we did, but when we've got our second round coming up here, and we'll see how it holds up. But the challenge here tonight is just to taste these things, talk about them, and see if we can come to consensus on which is better. If not, it'll just be a general analysis of two stalwart bourbons. I mean, these are classics, right?
Yeah, they are. I think the Evan Williams Black is probably one of the best buys, on the lower shelves. I mean, it's a 90 proof, really good quality bourbon for a nice cheap price. This has always been kind of looked upon as a heavy hitter, especially for the price. I mean, I bought this today. I mean, it was $17. So
yeah,
for 100 proof bottled in bond. But yeah, I think part of me agrees a little bit with with Rare Bird 101, kind of thinking about bottled in bond and what it means today. Once the Bottled in Bond Act hit in 1897, it was that mark of quality. It was like that mark of quality before it ever happened in anything the first thing that ever happened that was consumable. It wasn't with food, it was with whiskey. So to have that, and it really meant something back then. Whereas today, I think today, bottled and bond is used as more of a marketing gimmick, especially for newer whiskeys coming out. Because if there are whiskeys that don't have a bottled and bond, it's like, hey, we don't have a bottled and bond in our portfolio. Let's do a new release. We'll throw a bottled and bond on there, even though most of the warehouses in Kentucky, at least the older ones, are, they're federally bonded warehouses regardless. So they can age something as, look at Wild Turkey last year. I mean, as good as that was one of my favorite bourbons last year, was the Wild Turkey 17 bottled and bond, but they could essentially take anything and throw the BIB on there, but they chose
as long as they're not blending it with bourbons from different seasons, which a lot of those big guys do on those special releases, So that was kind of unique, and then it was 17 years old. But I do agree on the small guys. What I would say about small distilleries doing bottled and bond that I appreciate is then I at least know it's hit 4 years. Because I've been tasting I've been tasting a lot of craft whiskeys this year, and I think I'm up to like 58 or something. And so many of them just need more barrel time, dude. Like, I love the idea of craft whiskey, and a lot of this that I'm tasting, like the distillate, is high quality stuff. Like, there's a big difference when you're tasting young whiskey between like good distillate and bad distillate. Like, bad distillate, you feel like, if I drink much of this, I'm probably going to die. It's probably poisonous. Whereas the good distillate is like, this has promise. It just needs barrel
time. It just needs some barrel time. I mean, I saw that in Ohio with a couple of craft whiskeys we had here. And now that stuff's starting to come of age. I mean, you could smell potential, but you can also smell like just bad distillate. Like, this needs a whole like revamp. So interesting, but I agree. And
please stop what you're doing.
Yeah. The newer distilleries, bottle and bond is a great thing. It's that 4-year mark. It's great. With the older distilleries and the guys that are just pumping out, gallons of whiskey and gallons, it's you feel like they're using it a little bit more of a marketing term. Whereas that's why I think the next Weller edition is going to be a bottled and bond Weller.
I just wish they'd stop. I can't get it regardless of what they release.
I know.
I've got
what I mean,
2 bottles of.
I'm telling you, a bottled and bond Weller is coming. I'm telling you. And I have no inside info. I have no inside info. That's just my thoughts.
All right. Well, I saw on your channel last night. I was on the stream for a little bit, and I saw can you name the next Weller release? There was some pretty good one. What was your favorite from last night?
That was fun. I was saying there was somebody from Buffalo. There was somebody from Buffalo Trace writing that stuff down. Watching.
It'll get used. They do a good job.
Yeah.
Jason, you work in marketing. Is that correct? Is that what you do for
your
job?
I have a marketing background. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That was a question that a marketing person would ask. And just keep coming up with ideas, man. Maybe you'll get a job offer from Sazerac here before too long.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I was going to ask you one other thing before we get into these.
Sure.
I've had some killer single barrels from Middle West in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
You being an Ohio guy, have you had much of their stuff? If so, what do you think about it?
Yeah. So on one side, I really felt like their weeders needed more time. The weeder that they had, and I think it's gotten to the point now where it's definitely getting a little bit better. My big fandom for Middle West was actually their Pumpernickel Rye, because it was one of those. I haven't had that. It was one of those things where I've never tried anything like that before, and I really did like it a lot. I mean, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. Obviously, a pumpernickel style rye, it's weird, but I think it's a good weird. I mean, that's what when you're looking for something unique to try, and that stuff's just getting better and better too. Rye, it does a little bit better with some youth, but as it gets older, the nuances of the rye whiskey really start, coming to the forefront. I think that's what's starting to happen with Middle West overall. But I do, I wasn't such a fan of their stuff in the beginning, but I like the way their stuff tastes now. It's just getting better and better.
Yeah, I've had 2 of the wheated single barrels, and one of them was really, really, really good. And then I had their standard, I think, just small batch bourbon, which that tasted young, tasted like it needed barrel time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it was pretty sure it was Tom. Tom Lynch, who's in the chat. He's always in the chat. He's one of our mods, who sent me that early on, and I was like, "Wow, yeah." I mean,
Oh yeah, there's Tom.
I think,
Tom's actually asking me about High Bank Whiskey War winning some awards last week. Yeah, I love Adam over there at High Bank. I think the blends that they're doing are great. I haven't gotten a chance to try the age stuff. That's one, because I think it's about 4 or 5 years old now. That's what was submitted to San Francisco that won the award for best blended whiskey. I'm actually going to be heading there, I think, tomorrow to go grab those bottles. He's got a couple for me to put to the side to actually try it. So I'm looking forward to it. So I'm
nice.
Anytime a local distillery gets some sort of and I talked about this in the video, awards are kind of like a double-edged sword. I feel like it's like you almost cringe because you don't want a bourbon you love to get any award, because then you know it's going to be tatered immediately and you won't see it ever again. Perfect example of that is McKenna. And then, but on the other hand, I think for distilleries like High Bank and craft distilleries that you're talking about, you know, if it does win an award, now whether it's you think it's worthy of it or not, it puts a nice spotlight on a new distillery that, you know, new distilleries are, you know, their profit margins are like this. So any help that they can get to drive some more revenue for them and keep the lights on, you know, I'm happy to see that. So I'm really happy for Adam and the team at High Bank.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, let's get into these now. Before you taste them side by side, if you were to say, I think I like this one better, just going based off history, what would you have said?
Based off history?
Yeah, well, based off like your history with these products, which one would you go? Pull off the shelf if you had to?
I'm probably programmed to go after the bottle and bond because it's a higher proof. But
yeah,
on the nose here, if you go back and forth, the Evan Williams bottle and bond comes off. I don't know what you're getting, but to me, it's a little bit more nutty and corny. It's like the corn nut like nose that you get, whereas the Evan Williams Black Label, I could say, I mean, it's coming off a little bit more refined.
I hope I didn't just mix these up. Yeah, I totally may have, but oh, dang it. Yeah, because I was playing with them while you were talking. This is going to be the challenge.
That's going to be the challenge for you now.
Yeah, I need somebody to rewind and watch what I did with these glasses. But I'm pretty sure I had them like this. Pretty sure. So yeah, off of the way I was programmed, my conditioning, my environmental conditioning, I too would always go for bottled and bond, because it's 4 years old. The history of what bottled and bond means, all of that is, you know, generally good. But it was Dave's words that made me pause and go like, oh wait, I think that I've just been programmed on that. I think I need to go back and taste these things, because it's right that Evan Williams Black might have some extra age in it. Maybe it's produced in larger batches, so maybe there's also some barrels that just suck in there. So let's taste them and figure it out. So I think I've got to palate these though and see which one is hotter.
Like ADHD whiskey.
Welcome to Drew P Whiskey. Tonight, a couple beautiful people drink liquid sawdust. Nice.
Evan, I would say the bottled and bond does have a like a fresh cut wood note on there too, to go along with that nuttiness and graininess.
Dang it, I gotta just pour 2 new ones. Because like one is delivering better flavor for me, and I'm confusing flavor with proof right now. So
maybe,
yeah, because I just want to have an honest like assessment of this and not be like, I think that one was bottled and bond. All right. Thankfully, these are not that expensive. Yeah, I picked up the black for like $14, maybe a $7.50, and then this was $20 for a liter of the white. I can't find the white one for less than a liter.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, so they don't. I haven't seen it in 750 mils around Milwaukee. Granted, Milwaukee doesn't get a lot of distribution of much at all, but okay. So now this is the black and this is the white.
Okay, we got that square.
All right, are we ready? All right, give me your nasal assessment here, Jason, of the black.
Of the black. Okay, so the black is more of a classic bourbon nose for me. It's very vanilla, very caramel. It's a little bit more refined. That's like the oak profile, which may clue there could be a little bit some more age in there. I'm also getting
get some barbecue sauce.
I am getting the nuttiness, but I'm also getting a nice little citrus punch in here too. Like a little hint of like a slight hit of orange zest. Which
it's not too far off.
Which I could see barbecue sauce like being part of that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get a little brown sugar, a little smoke.
And then definitely some oak char for sure.
Yeah. This like vinegary kind of not bad, but enough vinegar where it's like, yeah, there's something funky in here beyond it's not too refined. It's like one of the things I'll get sometimes in the more nutty Heaven Hill products is this. It just reminds me of tasting mash out of the mash tun drum thing. Like you can do that at Willet, stick your hand in there and then taste it. It's kind of raw mash. That's what it reminds me of. Not young distillate, but just it's kind of mashy.
It is. It's very, which clues you into maybe it's a little bit. You are getting the younger stuff in here, and maybe there is a lot more younger than older in here because maybe some of that older stuff is refining it just a tad bit. Where the Evan Williams, the Bottle and Bond is coming off a little bit harsher. Yeah, it's a little bit. It's I mean, if you put this side by side, I would definitely think that the Bottle and Bond is younger.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
I don't know that I like it worse though, on just based on the nose. It does smell younger, but there is a slightly off-putting, like that vinegar is hanging with me in a way that I don't like on the black. And I get less of that here. Like I do get more nuttiness on the Bottled and Bond, which nutty bourbon is generally not my jam. It's not my ideal profile. But I'm getting less of the vinegar. It's a little more herbaceous on the Bottled and Bond too. Like I might get a little like more fresh greens, and almost in the rye family. Like it feels like the rye is coming through on the nose more in the Bottled and Bond than in the black.
So I feel like I'm getting more of the rye in the black, whereas the Bottled and Bond, I'm getting more of the that fresh cut sawdust note. I can't shake in the Bottled and Bond.
It's certainly fresh woody. I would agree.
Yeah,
there's
like
plenty
fresh
of that.
fresh woody, nutty, like very like it smells like it could be like a dry whiskey,
We got hot buttery rolls in the chat as well. What's up, dog? Tom dropping in links. Thanks, Tom.
Hot buttery.
Yeah, we could just have a bourbon community roundtable if all these guys jumped on.
That's right, love it.
All right, palate wise. Give me the black.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the black here.
I got a little bit of a note. There's some definite positives, but one of the another note I don't like to find is periodically I'll get kind of a swimming pool. A little chlorine.
I haven't heard that one yet. So a little chlorine.
Yeah. That hit me right as I was inhaling on that first sip. I was like, that it smells like I walked into a YMCA swimming pool. But then there are positives too. It's very sweet.
It is very sweet.
Caramel is there. Yeah.
It's like a light caramel. It's like a light caramel sauce. Little punch of vanilla. There's what I appreciate about Evan Williams is even for a low proofer, you get a nice little hint of spice on the back end, which I like. The finish doesn't go away like very, very fast for a 90 proofer, which I appreciate. I can't stand when I drink some lower proof and the finish just dies. This actually holds on a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, for the price,
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to really hate about it. Like that swimming pool is not over. Like in some craft whiskeys, I think it was Bower Hill I had, that tasted like you were just drinking like swimming pool water that had urine in it. It was awful. Just
I gotta tell you,
the
the vinegar note that you brought out is really resonating with me. I haven't thought of it as vinegar, but I could see where you're getting that.
Not bad. I know why Fred uses this as his sort of standard bourbon is because it tastes like bourbon.
It is. It's a very classic. There's nothing really off-putting about it to me at all. It's got, again, for a 90 proofer, it kind of takes you through the vanilla, caramel, the oak, the little bit of oak char you get, hint of citrus, and then a nice little spice on the end. It's like everything you want in a classic bourbon without anything being too forward or nothing that really sticks out. It's just very solid.
Yeah. Tim asks how I know what urine tastes like. Well, Tim, buddy, most of taste is smell, and I have 3 children, so there's pee everywhere. So, All right, bottled and bond.
Yeah. See, the bottle and bond comes off, yes, a little bit more proof heavy, but it also comes off a little bit the youth in the bottle and bond is a little bit more forward than in the black label. I feel like the youth comes out a little bit more in the bottle and bond, and I think the proof tries to hide that a little bit.
Yeah. It's certainly I'd say it's a one-trick pony. I get some layers of flavor in the black, whereas the bottled and bond feels like a one note. Now it's not a bad note.
It's not a bad note at all.
It does taste a little younger.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's pretty sweet, actually. Like I think I get more sweetness out of the bottled and bond, even though I get less depth than I got in the black. It's less caramely sweetness, and it's more like agave nectar. Maybe some like cheap honey or simple syrup.
I think honey is spot on, and this one has a little bit more orange blossom honey in it for me to go with like that. But again, I'm still getting a lot of that sawn wood and the young, like the youthful corn note is all up front.
Yeah,
and there's not enough of the honey for me to be like, wow, this is it's as layered as maybe the black label.
It's got a chalkier tactile too, I think.
Yeah.
It's got a finish that is reminiscent of younger Dickel. It's kind of a little bit hairspray-y. You mentioned the citrus, and then it's not super viscous, not slippery.
So it is, for
a chalky feeling.
And I gotta say, the finish on the bottle and bond isn't hanging out like the black label, and which is surprising because it's 10 proof points higher. But again, that could be my awfulness and figuring proof, though.
Yeah. Well, like when I poured these and then I mixed them up, I was like, well, dang, like because I couldn't tell off proof alone because I felt like one delivered more depth of flavor and one had more heat. I was like, I gotta re-pour this, make sure I get it right.
Yeah. I definitely like the black. I think I definitely like the black label off the nose. There's something a little bit richer and layered about it, at least on the nose.
Yeah, in terms of flavor profile too, I think the black's got it. The lower proof plus the age just makes it feel like a more carefully furnished bourbon, which is probably not. Like the batches on this are huge, but I'd put it up against. I'd say it's probably going to beat 90% of the craft whiskeys that I've tried so far this year.
Shit,
which is a shame.
Man. I mean, this is crazy. Like the black label. I don't know.
It holds up.
It holds up. It stands up to this stuff. I mean, I think like, are we falling in love with the actual flavor of this, or is it more the price?
Yeah, I mean, it's both. The flavor. So if you take the bottled and bond against most other younger whiskeys too, like this is probably going to hold its own. But I do think it's the general affection of the industry for bottled in bond plus the price gives this the allure. And, the white label looks kind of cool. So those two things.
The white label is nice. They'll stand out on the shelf.
And the proof. So those, like, it's the bottled in bond, it's the price, it's the proof. All those three things make the bottled in bond like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pull for that one as a whiskey geek. There's not a lot of this bottle doesn't carry a lot of respect with it. We don't talk about this one a lot.
Yeah, nobody does. Nobody does.
Yeah, I've never talked about it.
and even another Evan Williams label is the was it the 1783?
Yeah, right. I've actually never tried that.
That's I mean, if you think the black label is good, try the 1783. It's actually pretty damn delicious.
Yeah, we should have just added the third, but that would have been another bottle I had to buy that I didn't have already.
It's still only like $16. You're good, man.
Yeah, right. I spend a lot more for a lot less.
Mm-hmm. It's not gonna break into your diaper fund.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I definitely need that right now. We're starting to get the bills from having birthed a child and then those 10 days in the hospital. And I'm thankful to have insurance right now. Insurance is good.
That's right. I think what I want to do is blend these and see what happens.
Let's do it. We got a few minutes here, which is good because I have these two and I don't know what they are, so I can just pour them together. And that's what I'll drink the rest of tonight.
I'm going to see if these
Proof.
together.
Now we're going to be in that 92, 93 proof range.
Yeah. Maybe there's a happy medium here between the two.
I want to do a lot more blending of, different components and different profiles. I know Matt ADHD, he's been pretty active in blending, and that's something I'd like to get into more.
Yeah,
I've been doing
some blending. I've been doing blending on my own as well, just like playing with different mash bills and different flavor profiles to see how they work together. I was fortunate enough to have Nancy Fraley on, and
nice.
She was kind of schooling us on how she works these blends, and it's amazing how just like a little teaspoon of something can completely change and alter a whiskey flavor profile, even change the texture of it, not just the flavor. So kind of learning what I learned from her and trying to mess with different whiskeys. It's pretty. I like to take some of the younger stuff that I could get here locally, like the Watershed or the stuff from High Bank or the stuff from Middle West, and couple that with something on an older scale and see how those flavors work together. It's interesting. It's fun to do.
Yeah. I'm blown away by how they'll do it on a small scale, and then it translates when they actually mix the barrels together. Like I wonder.
I know when they could scale a blend like that, it's amazing.
Yeah, right. Like I wonder how different it is from like what they're tasting in the lab to when they actually blend it. Like how different are those samples? Like if you took the sample they created against the sample they finally ended up with, like how accurate is that? Because I'm like, so we're about to get our first bottles from Starlight, our first barrel picks, my first barrel picks ever, and I'm nervous as crap to taste them. I'm like, are they gonna taste like what I was tasting there? Now that they're out of the barrel, we're out of the space, they're in the bottle, like am I gonna like them as much as I like them in the moment? And that's just that's not blending anything, that's just moving from barrel to bottle. And then we're talking about blending sometimes hundreds of barrels.
Yeah, the first pick I ever did was I did a 1792 bottled in bond, and we were tasting these samples right out of the barrel, and we were really happy with what we got. And this is delicious, and obviously it was going to be proofed down to 100 because it was a bottled in bond. So not only did we have to mess with that, then they were like, yeah, we're gonna chill filter it, and we're gonna proof it down, and then we're gonna we'll bottle it. And I'm like, what is it gonna taste like now? Right. And then we got it.
It's completely different whiskey.
Yeah, thankfully some of those notes stuck around that we found in the original barrel, but it definitely lost something, unfortunately. So yeah. But it was good though.
Yeah, it's nice when you're doing a pick and they're just literally gonna dump it and bottle it. Like, okay, I have a little bit of confidence it's going to hold up.
Madeira Diaries. That was a nice episode with Nancy Fraley while she was smoking her pipe. Yeah, she was literally smoking her pipe while she's sitting there blending. It was amazing.
That's yeah. So apparently, Jim, I'm not a smoker. I've had some cigars, very few. I've enjoyed a pipe a few times, but I heard Jim Rutledge was also a big smoker, and I would think that would have consequences for your palate, but maybe they're not bad consequences. I don't know.
I mean, there's some. I think there's some pros and cons to it. You never know how it's going to affect one person's palate. But again, like Jim Rutledge is also one of those people. I kind of put him in the upper echelon, like with Nancy Fraley and Dixon Dedman, like just people that just know how to blend. I mean, you can give them any 6 whiskeys and they'll find a way to blend those whiskeys together to make something amazing. It's like an inherent just gift they have. It's amazing.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Tom says that Cameron Drums and Drams was raving about the Starlight Double Oak pick we did on his live stream earlier tonight. Awesome. Well, I'll go back and watch that as soon as I'm done here.
Cool.
Cam, if you're on, thanks, dog. Gotta have him on soon. All right. What do you think of the blend, Jason?
I'm loving the blend better than them on its own. I'll tell you that much.
Better than
I think it approves each one a little bit, honestly.
I think it's more balanced. It brings greater depth to the bottled and bond and more intensity to the black. I think I would agree with you.
Exactly. And I think if you spent some time and like played with the ratios, you could probably come up with like your perfect, representation of these 2 bottles in one sitting. So, I mean,
yeah,
if you're not making cocktails and you have these 2, try blending them together. It works nicely.
Yeah, I needed a little cocktail bourbon because I've just gotten a lot more selective. Like I don't buy a lot that I'm not sure I'm gonna like.
Yeah.
I really like sample swapping. It's like if I want to try something, try and get a sample of it so I don't have to invest in a whole bottle. So most of what I have, I really like to drink. But so now I'm well stocked on my cocktail bourbon. And when you're just outside, chilling with the boys and you just want to drink a bourbon without thinking too much about it, either one of these things is going to do the job.
Absolutely.
I'll be really sorry about it.
No, I agree.
All right. Well, a couple points of news, and then we'll move on to our next segment here, which is just to talk about Jason and hear more of his story. This is exciting news. The Starlight picks we did are out, and a few people, Patreon supporters, they have them already. Mine are getting shuttled to me from Kentucky by Eric, who I don't know if Eric's watching tonight, but he's actually down in Kentucky right now or on his way, and he'll be bringing my bottles back to Wisconsin. For those of you who are not Patreon supporters, there are some bottles left. I'm not going to guarantee you're going to get future barrel picks if you're not a Patreon supporter, but you might get this one, and you might get it if you go down in the show notes right now. There are links there to get our barrel picks. There's a double oaked rye, which the information that Blake has on his website, Sealbox, right now is wrong. I put the actual information in the show notes below. You can rest assured you're getting the right thing. And then there's the apple brandy finished bourbon. If you want to get these, you got to get them like right now, because after this live stream, Brian and I are going to post these bottles in our local groups that we're a part of on Facebook. So those folks can have a shot. And then after that, tomorrow morning, Blake's going to open them up to Sealbox. So I expect by the end of tonight, there's probably not going to be any left because we only had half barrels of each anyway. But if you are, a fan, a member of Neat Nation, not a financer of Neat Nation, which is fine, and you want these bottles, go get them right now. Links are down in the show notes. You're welcome, by the way. Granted, I haven't tasted them out of the bottle. We were just discussing that, but soon. So also in 2 weeks on the live stream, we'll pop those bottles. Hopefully we'll have Christian Huber from Starlight on that live stream. That's the plan. We haven't confirmed that with him. Maybe we can blow up his DMs and get that done. But 2 Thursdays from now is when we'll pop some, and then we will drink them together, taste them together on that live stream. So I'll try not to taste them before that night. But then I'll either be elated or absolutely depressed in the middle of our live stream. Brian just said how can he get some? Brian, I just explained it. It's in the links below. Oh, there's also, you may have to enter in the password, which is entryproof. If you click on the links, I also put that in the show notes. All right. That's that. Looking forward to getting those bottles. The next barrel pick we hope to be able to do, which I have a call with Joe Henry on Monday, is with J. Henry Bourbon, just north of Madison here in Wisconsin.
I love J. Henry. That's another product of Nancy Fraley's brilliant mind. Helping out with Jay. They make great bourbon.
Yeah, Nancy the Nose.
Yep, Nancy the Nose.
All right, Jason, let's talk about you, man. Let's take it back. Let's take it back a while.
Way back.
So before bourbon, what was Jason growing up like? What was Jason as a kid like? What did Jason want to do? What did Jason want to study going, high school, college?
Well, my first dreams were I was going to be a baseball player.
Nice. What position did you play?
Well, man, I was a catcher and an outfielder only because I had a great arm growing up. I was blessed with a really good throwing arm, so I would be throwing out runners or picking off people from the outfield. So I mean, growing up for me was it was interesting. It was I was the son of an immigrant family. My mom and my grandparents, they came over from Italy, in the 50s, and they set up shop here in Long Island. I lived with my grandmother, my grandparents mostly, my grandmother, my grandfather. It was always a busy house. There was food 24/7. I give all the credit to my grandma and her cooking that I felt like, furnished my palate to trying all sorts of different foods and getting very, very acquainted with different spices and different, things to try, and sweet flavors and savory flavors and everything that, I kind of grew up with, because she was always cooking 24 hours. It was crazy. There was always people coming over, and she would just whip up something real fast when somebody came in. It was crazy. So I went to school, and, as I got through school, I played a lot of baseball growing up. That was kind of my love. I made it to, once I started playing in high school and tried out for the college team. I kind of got a bad injury. I dove, in the outfield, and I fell on my arm really awkwardly. It kind of just, it just like messed up my shoulder to the point where I just really couldn't throw like I used to. And that kind of shattered my dreams a little bit. Not that I was saying I was good enough to play like professional ball, but I wanted to take it further just to see where, you never know where it could have went. So after that,
that was in college, you said?
That was like my last year in high school, because I wanted to play in college.
Got it. So, were you still in Long Island at this time?
Yeah, I was still in Long Island. I didn't move to Queens, so I lived out in Long Island for a while. Was working in Queens. I went to college at St. John's University. I got my degree in graphic design, because throughout like my middle school and my high school years, I started drawing, and kind of realized that, I was pretty good at illustration, and I wanted to, possibly turn it into a career. And then at that time, as I got into college, I started looking at different schools that had good art programs, and I felt like, maybe graphic design is the way that I can go and actually start a career. I didn't really want to do illustration. That was very competitive, and I didn't feel like I had the illustrative skills to really make some good money. You really have to have a knack for it. And I was good at it, but I wasn't great compared to some of the other illustrators that, I hung around with at school. But where I did excel, I think, was the mix of marketing and logo design and brand building. And so that's what I went for in college. And in college is where I got introduced to bourbon. Wild Turkey 101 and Coke, and eventually it went to Wild Turkey on the rocks, and then eventually it went to Wild Turkey straight, and then so a little bit after college, I wasn't really doing the Scotch too much. I'm sorry, the bourbon too much. Then I got really into craft beer, which I think a lot of people did at that time. The craft
it's a
beer
natural evolution. Yeah,
it's a natural evolution.
Craft beer was huge. Yeah,
the craft beer movement like took over. I really got into stouts and porters and as dark and thick and rich as I could find, and I really loved that. And then one time I was at a bar, and I was sitting at the bar with a friend of mine, and he's like, "Hey, when's the last time you had a bourbon?" I'm like, "Oh, it's been a while." So we got a pour of Wild Turkey, the old standby. And I'll never forget the bartender. It's a beautiful female bartender. And I'm like, and she's like, "Hey, have you ever had, if you really want to have a real good bourbon," she's like, try this. So she pulled off a bottle of Booker's at the time. And I really wish I knew what batch it was or what the name. I wasn't.
How long ago was this?
This was in, this was in the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe.
Okay.
At least I think.
Vintage then. Yeah, that's pretty vintage.
Like it was an older bottle of Booker's, and she poured it, and I never tasted anything like it. So it was just pure, unadulterated, cask strength, non-chill filtered, full proof bourbon. And then after that, I became kind of a regular whiskey drinker. I wasn't still doing it all the time. When I got the opportunity to move here to Ohio from New York, because of my job, I didn't really know anybody here. So that's when I kind of consumed myself with whiskey and the knowledge of it, and so on it went.
So what were you doing work-wise that moved you from New York over to Ohio? And what was that transition like? Because that's a big change.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, I was working at a pharmaceutical distribution company doing all their marketing and all their artistic design. And so as a pharmaceutical wholesaler, we're kind of the middleman between the manufacturers and the independent pharmacies and hospitals and all that stuff. The company I worked for had kind of a stranglehold in the Northeast. And now there's 3 main big companies that do wholesale distribution. And that one big company bought the old company that I was working for. And they're based here in Ohio. So I was working for them kind of on a remote, working remote basis, because they loved the work I was doing. So they kind of plucked me out of the New York position and put me on their team. So I was working from home remotely out of New York and Queens. I lived in Queens for about 12 years before I moved here. So, so they were like, "Hey," and there was a lot of different circumstances that always lead up, kind of going through like different changes in my life, and, what just felt right. I was just like, I was in a rut in New York, and, I was in a really bad relationship. And I felt like once that ended, it was like the last push I needed to make a new start. So they offered me to a position to come out here if I wanted to. If I would have had to be around in the office for it, so I made the move. And yeah, it was a big change, dude.
Yeah. I mean, so like, you're in Columbus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you like Columbus compared to Queens?
I do miss some of my old haunting, like the food.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure.
I mean, living in Queens, Queens has the most types of food in one given area, like the biggest eclectic array of food in one specific area, I think, in the world. I mean, you can go from, Middle East to Russian to Polish to Asian to, I mean, all within the same day. If you just, you play your cards right with the trains and there's no delays, you could literally eat your way around the world within Queens. But I will say, when I got to Columbus, I was surprised there was a lot more diversity here than I thought. especially in the food realm, and it was all that, and there was enough here for me to, kind of, put some roots in the ground and build a house here and stay here, and and I still get to have some of that eclectic food. It may not be as diverse with all my favorite places that I had in New York, especially like I miss Katz's Deli, getting a good pastrami sandwich down there every now and then again. But I don't have to deal with all the bullshit traffic like I did in New York. So
right. I'm sure that's there's pros and cons, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you a wine guy? I mean, growing up, Italian household, New York. I mean, you mentioned craft beer, but did you ever get into wines?
Yeah, my grandfather was it was our Christmas before Christmas. Every September, my grandfather ordered a truck full of grapes from Brooklyn. And when it was wine making time, the truck, every September, the truck would back in. It would be primarily red grapes, but then he had some white grapes mixed in. And we made wine for about a month straight with my grandfather's grapes. We would he had some crazy machines that he kind of rigged himself. And if you've ever seen one of those old school, like the wine pressers, where it's like the wood slats, it's got basically a ratchet in it that just tightens the board down and squeezes the juice down as you're cranking the bar back and forth. And as you use it, the plate inside with all the grapes underneath just kind of presses down. You keep just like a barrel under there, and it just fills it. And so I got to make some wine and drink some grape juice. That was always my favorite part. My grandfather would pour some of the fresh grape juice and give it to us, and we felt like we were drinking wine, but obviously,
of course,
yeah. But like the thing with my grandfather's wine though is like as soon as it aged enough to turn some alcohol, as soon as it just fermented enough to turn it exactly right when it changed to alcohol, he was filling bottles. There was no age to that wine at all.
Got it. It's pretty fresh. It'd be interesting to taste that, like these homemade wines that people crank out. Was he using natural yeast, or what was he inoculating?
I never really saw that process. I don't know what he did. I just know that he would smell the barrel every day to see how it was cooking in there and see how it was aging. And I think as soon as he could smell the proof on it, he started filling bottles of it. So
yeah. No measurement, no exact measurement. Like Lord knows
just
what
it's
the
all
actual
by,
alcohol that was.
It was like the way my grandmother cooked. She didn't have a recipe. It's all
sure,
instinct.
Yeah,
it's all instinct. You kind of go with the feel of it.
So being an Italian on Long Island, are you familiar with the restaurant Borelli's?
Mm-hmm.
Borelli's Italian restaurant. There's a podcast I listen to. I'm sorry, Tom, but I'm gonna bring up golf. There's a golf podcast I listen to. One of the hosts is his name is Frankie Borelli, and his dad owns that restaurant. It's just like worlds colliding a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Not too much.
I mean, there's a ton.
I've not been there. I'm not familiar with Long Island.
Yeah,
that's just the only thing I know about it.
I do miss the New York pizza. So
yeah. I've been trying to get into pizza, actually explore varieties, traditions, different methodologies for making pizza. Unfortunately, Milwaukee's not great for pizza. It's great for some other things. Like there's a lot of ethnic diversity here, a lot of good food around, but not a lot of great pizza.
For sure. Yeah,
could just kibosh it. We're talking over each other.
I'm just gonna start getting hungry. So
yeah, true. Yeah, that's a dangerous place to be. Is like it's 11 o'clock. You just got done drinking and talking about bourbon, and then you crush a bunch of food just before going to bed. It doesn't make for good sleep. So you're in Ohio. You're doing the marketing thing. You really fall in love with bourbon. How long were you an enthusiast before you became a pundit or pundit? Is it pundit or pundit? I think it's pundit.
Pundit. Yeah.
Oh, just one N. Okay.
Yeah.
So how long were how long were you an enthusiast before you were a pundit?
So I really started drinking bourbon again around 20, right before I moved here to Ohio. So when I was living my last couple years in Queens, I was buying bourbon again and drinking bourbon. And I don't know if you would call me an enthusiast at the time. That really didn't start until I got to Ohio in 2016. And as I said, once I moved here, I didn't really know anybody. So as I was literally like setting up my apartment, and I was taking my bourbon bottles out, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I should try more of this stuff. I have nothing better to do than, but there's probably some stuff out there that I don't really know about. And then I saw YouTube, and I would looked up. I was looking up, I wonder how this one is, and I was looking online for like reviews about, X whiskey or X bourbon. And then like videos would pop up on YouTube on my feed. And I'm just like, holy shit, there are full channels dedicated to people just drinking this stuff and telling me what you think. And I just found it fascinating. I immersed myself with it. And I think some of the early channels I watched was obviously Rex and Daniel, the Whiskey Tribe, and with Scotch Test Dummies, Scott and Bart. Even at the time, Chad and Sarah, was kind of like my bourbon go-tos, and I learned a lot from them. But I was kind of going back and forth between Scotch and bourbon, and learning some stuff about Irish whiskeys, and I couldn't get enough of it. And then what I did notice is that nobody really was talking about the history of it all. And that was something I was very interested in. And who was making it, how it's made, the sour mash technique, the sweet mash technique, what's different, entry proof, barrel proof, the terroir, what's involved in all that, where are these guys getting their grains from, what's yellow dent corn versus bloody butcher corn, how does all that. There was nobody taking deep dives into this, and that's what made me start my channel. Was I felt like it was a missing piece to the puzzle, and I felt like I could make a little bit of a niche in myself, and niche for myself with just talking about that stuff. And then with with my marketing and graphic background, I felt like it was kind of a natural transition for me. It was just different to talk in front of a camera and kind of do what I do, and I just had to get used to it, really. So.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get the technical side of your videos down? Meaning that, I went back to your very first video in prep for this. And like all of our very first videos, the audio is not great. And,
the audio was terrible. The audio was terrible.
Well, the audio was terrible on my last video too, because I've got mic problems, but I'm close. How long did it take you to feel like, okay, I've got a pretty good routine built on getting these videos cranked out? Because you do a lot. You produce at a pretty healthy tick.
Yeah, I think my goal in the beginning was let me start doing just like 2 reviews a week, and let's see how that goes. And as I was deep diving into the history of each brand, I was figuring that I can't, like, everything I rehearse before I go in front of the camera, I don't always remember. I was saying a lot of ums and like trying to think, and it was driving me crazy just watching that over and over. And besides the audio and the lighting and all that stuff, that's what was driving me nuts more and more. So I was I kind of figured out some ways to help me not do that anymore. So once I had that down, I felt like, all right, let me upgrade my microphone here. Luckily, I was asking Scott and Bart from Scotch Test Dummies. They really helped me along the way with figuring out like a microphone and, how, like, what a good setup should be. And, I looked at other YouTubers and like what their setup is like. And, you just kind of learn as you go. And then from there, once you kind of have that stuff locked down, it's all about your content. So, yeah.
You've got to hit a bar. A bar of, I can hear what you're saying and it looks decent. I found that people who consume bourbon content on YouTube, they're not overly picky about how good you look. Like, that's not really why we're here. It's really about, like, what do you have to say? And there's a lot of people saying a lot of different things, so there's not really a right way to go about it and a wrong way. It's that, are you delivering something that's of value to the community? And certainly, your track record speaks for itself. how long did it take you in terms of like cranking out videos before you were like, oh, people really seem to like be resonating? I mean, right now you're up to almost 50,000 subscribers. Like,
Yep.
was it linear? Was there a particular time where you found like, oh, for whatever reason, now it seems like people are listening to what I have to say?
Yeah, you know what? I get that question a lot, and I'm not sure exactly when that transition happened. I just think, for me, it wasn't really about the subscribers. I was just trying to put out good content, and then I think at a certain point, when honestly, I think it was my Russell's Reserve versus Russell's Reserve versus Rare Breed review. That's one of those reviews that I'll always remember. I know that's one that David Jennings latched onto, and then he kind of got interested in my channel. And then, once he started like helping me get a little bit more of a traction, I started doing more. And then I got into learning more about videography. And I think as it kept going on, and I feel like, a lot of the comments I get even still today are, I like your no nonsense, nonsense like take on whiskeys. You just kind of, you talk about the history, you go through the tasting, you tell us what you like. And I think over time, people have come to, trust my palate, and even for the ones that don't, they still tune in and just see what I think in general, which is great. So I just think overall, and, there have been some funny moments in there too that people resonate with. And I really, like I said, I really wanted to hone in on the history and the people that make it. And as soon as I was able to get something like some really cool guests on, the makers of the whiskeys, I think that's when I really started kind of making, I think, headway with subscribers, and that's where the channel really took off.
So were you referencing the time you fell over as
that's one of the reasons.
Times?
One of them, yes, one.
So and here's the interesting thing about, was that live or was that on a that was at
the end of a review I do when I did all the Elijah Craig barrel proofs. Because my camera's still running as I'm doing it. And when I got up, I fell on my ass and the camera caught it. So I figured I'd keep it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are people who would cut that out, but I think it's a lot of respect to somebody who would be like, well, listen, I'm going to take myself seriously in what I create. Like, I'm going to try and create something good, but I'm also doing this for fun. So, you know what?
Yeah.
Let's leave it in there and let's have a good time with it.
Yeah. Like a big part of my philosophy is I'll never, ever get to a point where I would want to, have smaller channels on my channel, or I couldn't show myself falling on my ass or anything like that. It's all fun. And, parts of whiskey and the history I do take seriously, and my production I take seriously. But when it comes to, interaction and falling on my butt, everybody should be able to see that.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's isn't that how Dan and Sean over at the Bourbon Junkies, that's 90% of what they produce, right? I liked what they did today. They just they released a video just doing a little bit of I'm not going to say they stole my idea because they took it deeper than I did, but documentary style of their Starlight pick, which I really enjoyed watching that. I really like golf vlogs. Sorry, Tom, here's golf again. But it's like these experiences. A lot of new YouTube content is like living vicariously. And from people who can't go on barrel picks, or those of us who get maybe a little bit more unique bourbon experiences, other people who maybe don't have that privilege still really want to know what it's like. So I liked what Dan and Sean dropped today for sure.
Yeah, that was a big part of my channel doing. I had a series called Off the Still that I was working on, where it was me interviewing people at the distilleries that are making, and I got to. My first one was with Elizabeth McCall, who at the time just was named assistant master distiller at Woodford Reserve. And, I was able to like sit down on location and do an interview with her. I had a lot more planned to do last year and really take it to another level, but, COVID killed that. So I'm hoping to get back to that.
Bring it back. Yeah.
Yeah. Next week, we are going to be bringing it back a little bit. We're doing 2 picks, me and Scott, for the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club. We have an Elijah Craig barrel proof pick we're doing.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's my dream pick, man.
Yeah,
Woo!
we're doing Elijah Craig barrel proof pick on Thursday morning, and then we're going to follow that up on Friday with a Wilderness Trail single barrel rye pick. And I think Scott and I do have plans to do kind of a documentary style thing of both picks together, and it's going to culminate with, I think, an interview with Dr. Patrick Heist at Wilderness Trail. So that's
Cool.
a video that I'm really looking forward to crafting for everybody.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Everybody stay tuned for that. I'm sure everybody's as jacked as I am. So Brian says bin ECBP pick. Yeah. So why don't you tell folks how they might get access to something like that?
All you got to do is become a patron. If you're a patron of the Mash and Drum Whiskey Room, you can get access to the picks. We just released our first pick, just got mailed, and people are starting to get their bottles just this week. We did a custom blend with Rye 3, and that's starting to hit. That me and Scott had that we created, and we're really proud of it. To get your first pick out there is always great. And following that, we have a Russell's Reserve pick coming out soon. We have a Rebel and an Ezra pick coming out from Lux Row. We have 2 Bullet picks coming out in the summer, 2 Woodinville picks. We also have this Elijah Craig barrel proof pick coming.
All right, calm down. All right.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know you can get access to all these picks.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's, you guys are hitting it hard. How did you get hooked up with? Well, first, Tom, would you mind just going ahead and dropping Jason's Patreon link in here? And then Jason, how did you get hooked up with Scott? I met Scott through Instagram. Like 5 years ago, and we found out we don't live that far from each other, so we've been able to get together a few times. But how'd you get hooked up with him?
So Scott was my first, I guess, kind of supporter. He was kind of the guy that, if a new channel starts and I want to have them on my channel, he was kind of that for me. At the time, Scott's was a very established channel. He was putting out a lot of content, mainly focusing on craft whiskeys. Austin Fell says, Jason, the Rye 3 is awesome. Thank you so much, man. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I can't forget about the 4-gate pick. Yeah, we're doing a 4-gate pick too, which is cool. We have an 8-year. We have an 8-year MGP toasted rye that's coming out probably in the next week. Probably in the next week or so. So yeah, Scott was kind of like that for me. And then as we kept talking, we both realized we had similar palates. I mean, I venture off more into Scotch and Irish than he does. There's some Scotches that I absolutely love. Scotch is still kind of a foreign entity to Scott a little bit, I think. But I'm trying. We're trying to like get him into more of it, because I would love to do like an American single malt pick. I think just to
nice.
Our goal with the Mash and Journey picks is to really create a large portfolio of unique and different picks that everybody can enjoy. So we don't, like doing MGP picks is great. Everybody loves MGP, but we want to, kind of do different things, some focus on craft, some of the big brands, do stuff with some unique finishes on it, American single malt, different categories. And, we did a cognac pick, not with Scott, but I did that with Bourbon Pursuit and Whiskey Raiders.
I saw that.
So that was a really fun thing to be a part of. Even though I don't know anything about. I know how cognac's made, but I don't know shit about it, like tasting it.
Yeah.
I just had to they're like, it doesn't matter. Just let us know what you think is good. So, yeah. And then, so Scott was that for me. And then as we just kept talking, as a year went on, we hung out in Kentucky together. Like, hey, I'm going down. You want to, hang out? He does like a yearly trip to Kentucky with his dad, and he invited me to come, and we had just a blast that weekend. And, we talked about, possibly if we were ever to do, if we were ever lucky enough to get like barrel picks going, that we would maybe want to do them together, because we have those similar palates. And We both kind of look for the same little nuances in a bourbon or a whiskey. And we had the opportunity at the beginning of the year, and we did not know how many offers we were going to get. We have been very blessed, very lucky to get the type of interest from outside distributors and brands that want to do a pick with us. And so I couldn't be more happy that the way it's gone.
Yeah, congrats, man. I'm watching you guys, and I had no idea you had that many picks coming. That's really, really phenomenal. So hats off to you guys. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're excited. Yeah, it's what level Patreon to get? As long as you're a Patreon, but the higher tier you are, the closer you'll get to getting a pick.
Preferential treatment, yeah. So it's like the way it works. Ours is the same way. It's the higher tier, you get first right of refusal, and then it works its way down. So if you're on the bottom tiers, there's a chance all the bottles will be gone before they get to you. So
yeah, I think with my Patreon, we have a lot of people in like that $10 area, which is perfectly fine. That's where probably most of the bottles will go. So if I feel like if you're in that $10 tier, you'll be safe. But if you're in the $5 tier, there's a good chance you could get yourself a bottle, but also a good chance it could be sold out depending on what it is. So, yeah.
Well, let's get back into some whiskey geekery.
Yes.
You mentioned, you really fell in love via Wild Turkey and that pour of Booker's. As you started to taste more and more whiskeys, what are some others that you just found blew you away? Pours that you just remember, that like, oh, wow, like I learned something the moment I tasted that, or that whiskey's always going to stay with me. What are some highlights in all your years of tasting, all the whiskeys you've tried now?
Yeah, like Booker's was the first one that punched me in the face. That was like, holy shit, I got to try more of this stuff. The first time I ever, I know it's kind of a bullshit thing to bring up now, but honestly, I had the chance, early on when I first started the channel to try Booker's Rye.
Oh yeah, dude, that was one for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just like I did not know a rye could be like that was a holy shit moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was one for sure. I would say probably when I started really getting into the nuances of Wild Turkey as well. I'm a huge Wild Turkey fan. Everybody knows that. So it's like if you want to talk about like the whiskey journey here, it kind of, I feel like everyone has the same experience. You kind of get all in the beginning, and you want to buy and try everything you can.
Everything.
And you're spending money left and right, building a collection. And in the beginning, it's not only trying what you can, but it's also you want to start building that collection. It's like, it's like baseball cards for people with 401ks. You just kind of you kind of just keep building up your collection, and you keep going.
I'm going to steal that. Sorry, I just got to tell you, I'm going to steal that as a t-shirt idea.
And then you have the part of it where, like in the beginning, I'm kind of like, I was like everybody else. I needed everything Buffalo Trace because that's what everybody talked about. I needed Elmer T. Lee. I needed Blanton's. I needed, oh my God forbid I ever tasted or tried or even saw a BTAC. My head would explode. So that's kind of like the initial, like, it's like your introduction into buying, like, oh, have you ever had Weller or Elmer T. Lee or Buffalo Trace and all this stuff? So I started trying that stuff and going further along and getting lucky to try a lot of those. I'll say the first time I ever had George T. Stagg, that was a holy shit moment. That opened my eyes to all these flavors I did not know that Buffalo Trace had. I will say some of the older, everyone like makes fun of me because I always make fun of Blanton's, but the older bottles of Blanton's that I had in my beginnings, I really liked. And I just feel like as I've gotten further on, the hype for it has grown, and it's also gotten younger. I mean, we used to be an 8 to 9 year old single barrel. Now we're looking at 6 years old. So you have that coupled with a couple of other bourbons. God, what are some? Oh yeah, Colonel Taylor Barrel Proof. That was a holy shit bourbon for me. First time I had that. And the first time I ever had a finished bourbon, a finished whiskey, which was it It was actually it was an Angel's Envy. That was the first time I ever had something finished in a port cask, and I kind of realized, the effect that could have, which like kind of opened up, new questions for me. So.
Yeah, the first time I ever tried Angel's Envy, we were at a coffee competition / conference, which there are such things if you didn't know.
Yeah.
And first place we went is the liquor store to decide what we were going to drink that weekend. And one of the guys on the trip, at the recommendation of whoever was working at the store, recommended Angel's Envy. And so we were doing pulls of Angel's Envy from the bottle. And that was very early into my whiskey journey, but it was like, this doesn't taste bad. This is not the same stuff. This is not Bullet, which was the only other American whiskey I was really familiar with at the time. Like, there's something else here. I kind of like it.
Yeah, and just
sweet and fruity.
Yeah, it's just like, and then you just kind of discover brands, and then I really focused on my palate. So I was drinking Jim Beam for like 3 weeks straight, and just like trying to pick apart every single part of Jim Beam I could. And then I introduced like Elijah Craig to the mix and Heaven Hill products, and then I was trying those and trying to figure out what the differences are. And I did that with a lot of brands to try to get my palate up to snuff before really getting into doing the videos. So
yeah. Through all the journey, you've accumulated a collection. This is a natural part of the progression.
A natural part of it. It's a natural part of the problem.
Yeah, I gotta ask this question. It's just what we do. How many bottles are we talking about now? Like, somebody else asked a question in the chat earlier too. When's the last time you did inventory?
I actually did an inventory a couple months ago because I was cleaning out some of the older bottles I had and making room for newer ones. And I actually took what happens is my old bottles I take from down here and I move upstairs. And then if it's upstairs, I don't have to go down here, and I could just kind of use those bottles and go through those before I get rid of them. So I kind of interchanged them out. But the last time I did an inventory, I was at 672 bottles. And then I could say the last couple weeks it's gone over 700 because I've gotten most of these bottles up here are all new. So, yeah.
Well, let's talk about those.
Yeah.
Normally we start the pod out with this question, but what did you get this last week? What was hunting like for you this week?
So Ohio was pretty slim pickings this week. There wasn't a lot that came in.
You picked up Evan Williams Bottled and Bond.
I picked up Evan Williams Bottled and Bond today, so that was my big pickup. Yeah. So let me see. I grabbed, what else did I grab this week in here in Ohio? I felt like I bought something else and I'm just not remembering. I actually bought a Scotch. I did buy a Scotch. I got the Ardbeg, the Lagavulin 11-year Guinness finish, which will be my next review.
I just saw a commercial for that.
Yeah, that'll be my next review. So
did you pop it yet?
I did. I popped it because with anything with Lagavulin and peated Scotch, I like to get a few pours and let it open up because I feel like the flavors really kind of get more true to form when you let a little air, especially for a peated Scotch.
Mm-hmm. You want to give us a preview of that? Of what you thought of that one? Just mainly because I'm curious.
I'll say the Guinness influence on it it's there. You could definitely.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
You could definitely smell it. I'll say this: the nose on it, I could smell all day long because it definitely reminds you of that, like a Lagavulin that just has that smoke to it. But with the chocolate and the you definitely get a little bit of that Guinness bitterness too on the nose as well. But I feel like on the palate, I feel like the Guinness overtook the Lagavulin a little bit, not in terms of smoke. But Lagavulin for me has always had like this smoked peach or like smoked citrus, like floral note to it. Not citrus, sorry, citrus is the wrong word. Like smoke, like stone fruit. Yeah, like peaches and like grilled peaches that you would have on a barbecue, and you kind of get that with a lot of Lagavulin. For me personally, and I felt like that's kind of went away a little bit, and the Guinness and the bitterness kind of took that over. So I was looking for that on the palate as I was tasting it. So when I do the review, probably actually film it tonight. We'll see how it goes.
Sweet. Well, you're gonna be up
but yeah, I mean, I got the new 4-gate Kelvin Collaboration 3 last week. These old Carters I was lucky enough to grab. These are the brand new. They released 7, 8, 9, and 10. They released 7, 8, 9,
They're
and
never
10.
released in Wisconsin.
I know.
Up here.
This is 9. This is 10. One of my patrons actually sent me the Four Roses limited barrel from 2020, which I never got a chance to get.
Wow.
This is an Angel's Envy store pick, which I figured, I don't know if I'll ever see this again, but I figured I'd give it a go. And what else? I got 3 bottles from ASW, which is that craft distillery in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I tasted through a few of those.
Yep. And what else?
Wow, that was a busy week, dude.
And the two Stellums, the new one, the new budget labels from Barrel. Those are. I didn't get these all this week, but these are kind of the newest acquisitions I could think of.
Yeah, I read a review about the Stellum. Seems fine.
It's a very solid $55 bottle of MGP forward whiskey, I would say.
Yeah, right. It's got Tennessee up in there too. Yeah. Which I like. I mean, if it's well aged, I like it. Everybody knows that I'm a big fan of the Dickel. If it's older, it's when it's younger, it can get pretty brutal. My only pickup this week, which with a little help from my friends, but I really wanted this one, was the Pfeiffer Pavitt EXO Bardstown release.
So I got to try that in the last time I was in Kentucky. Me and Scott, with our significant others, we went for lunch at Bardstown Bourbon Company, and Danny, who's the barrel specialist,
great guy. Yeah, we interviewed him. He's on the pod. First episode actually was with Dan Calloway.
Absolutely phenomenal guy. He brought us over glasses of that barrel, and he was telling us that in a couple of weeks we're going to be offering up for, you can fill a bottle of this, and we were like, and my girlfriend, who does not like whiskey, tried that stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I could drink this." I'm like, "Great! It's probably like a $200 bottle. That's perfect." So.
Yeah, right. Not cheap taste. So actually, Brian was supposed to pick me up one of these, and then he bailed on me to go get himself a Lot B, which was fine. I can't blame him. But so Brian, if you got me another one, I'll take it. That's fine. If you ended up going, but he told me he didn't go. So somebody else, a fan of the show, who I'll have on when I pop this. Well, she was driving through Kentucky and asked for some recommendations. And so I gave them to her, and then she also helped me get this. I did pay for it though, to be clear. So I was not gifted this bottle.
Yeah, when I get to Kentucky next week, I'm hoping there's some of that left. I'm going to see if I can maybe get a bottle of that. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's one of those. It's certainly at a price point where it's probably not going to fly. But at the same time,
I mean, to be finished in that Pfeiffer Pavitt for 44 months, it's insane.
Yeah, and that's really why I wanted it. Was like that is unique. Nobody does that.
Yeah, nobody's aging Dickel like that for 44 months.
Yeah. Derwake just said, I get so confused between this channel and Drums and Drams. Well, I have a beard and Cameron does not. So that's the differentiator right there.
Yeah.
Beyond that, actually, I play the drums as well. So there's not much difference between Cameron and I. His videos are a little bit brighter because I feel like, he uses an actual light and I use an IKEA lamp and I'm in a basement. So that's probably what the difference is.
Yeah, well, Cameron from Drums and Drams, he's a Columbus guy too. So,
wow, there's quite an Ohio contingent of whiskey geeks, and Scott and I are Wisconsin. Is there anybody else? There's some of the smaller channels. Rock Gut Review would be one. Wisco Whiskey Review would be one. Yeah, so there's a decent amount. There's a great Wisconsin Facebook page too, the Speakeasy. So if you're in Wisconsin and you love bourbon, you should try and join the Speakeasy _WI. They do some picks periodically with the local stores around. They generally do a great job. So good group of folks over there.
Yep.
So what's next for you? Jason. I mean, you mentioned all these barrel picks, the project with Scott, Mash and Journey barrel picks. That's awesome. But tell us where you want to take your channel. Like, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, God forbid you got hit by a bus. What do you want to have done? What do you want to have done for the industry or for your patrons, or, what's that legacy?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. I don't think I figured that out yet. I think for me, it's, I never wanted to get into this to, I think, get the most subscribers. That just wasn't kind of my deal. I wanted to educate and really talk about the whiskey and build enough of a representation for my channel in the whiskey industry, and one that's well respected. I think I've done a good portion of that. But I think I just want to get to a point where when people think of the Mash and Drum, they can think of it as a trusted resource for good, solid reviews, and someone that's not gonna bullshit you and just keep it real. And if I could, I think my goal right now is for the next year. If I'm projecting a year out, and now that if COVID stuff starts loosening up, I really want to get on the road. I want to go visit and talk to the distillers and talk to the makers and the blenders that are all creating and crafting this whiskey that we know and love, and talk to them on a personal level. And I feel like for me, I love talking with people and learning and looking them right in the eye and trying to get like their emotion and trying to figure out their passion and why they do what they do. And so that's for me is kind of the next step. I really want the barrel picks are great. Doing the reviews are great. Doing live streams are amazing because you get to interact with your audience. But I think for me, the more I can talk to the people that are making the whiskey and educate, and so everybody out there knows exactly what's in your bottle and why this specific whiskey is special. If somebody thinks of, if somebody like on the street, like randomly, that's like a whiskey enthusiast, if they say, hey, what about, what do you think about this whiskey? And if they automatically think, let me see if Mash and Drum has a video or if he knows anything about it, I feel like I've done my job.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it one level deeper. And this is, again, a question that you're subjected to because all of our guests get subjected to it. We're going to take it to a philosophic level. So hope you're ready. Yeah. How do you define your purpose? Or do you think of life in that way? Like beyond whiskey.
Within whiskey, or outside of whiskey?
It's just generically. It's more like when you get up in the morning, what kind of crosses your mind in terms of who do you want to be, and how do you hope to carry yourself in the world?
For me, it's I actually have it tattooed on my arm right here.
Oh, nice.
It's Italian, but it's live today as if you'll die tomorrow in Italian. So how you say it is come se moriate domani. So viva oggi come se moriate domani. So that's what's on my arm. So I always feel like I'm always gonna live for today and whatever that may bring, make the most of it. I'm never, I mean, it sounds cliche and maybe cheesy, but if I can just like make someone laugh or smile every day, then I feel like I'm good. I am not an angry person. I am Italian though. If you get my blood boiling, you don't want to see that.
There's a bad side. There's a dark side.
It's a very bad side. Yeah. And it's like, I also have that problem that a lot of Italians have, which is the grudge. So if you wrong me or talk shit about me, I'm definitely going to remember it like forever. So.
Got it. Everybody take notes. If we ever joke about other channels, we can't joke about Jason.
You could joke about me, and I have no problem. I poke fun of myself all the time, but if it gets to like a personal level, then we're done.
Sure. Yeah. I definitely hear that. Totally.
Yeah.
What in the whiskey industry right now is exciting to you? I mean, you of course spend a lot of time talking with folks, exploring stuff, reading the news, chatting with industry insiders. What are you jacked about right now?
I feel like the thing that I'm loving right now is the community behind or within a certain aspect of craft whiskey. I think there's a lineage now of amazing distillers and people that are trying to craft new whiskeys, using new and innovative grains, and pushing the envelope with innovation in the industry. And sometimes that means going back and doing something old school, but just doing it in a new way, which I think we've seen a lot in distilling as well. I bring up Spirits of French Lick all the time. I think that's a really good representation what Alan Bishop is doing with what he's doing at Spirits of French Lick. You have Leopold Brothers in Colorado. What they're doing, they built a 3-chamber still to try to replicate an old rye whiskey from the early from the 1800s, which I think is just ridiculous. And I want to taste that stuff so bad. But I feel like there's a movement within that's not only driving innovation in craft, but it's also driving innovation with the heritage distilleries. I think what we're seeing in the craft movement is driving more innovation in with the heritage guys as well. Now, don't get me wrong, the heritage guys they have the means to bring out ultra aged stuff. They can bring out some really great special editions, but I mean, do we really think that we would have seen like a Little Book series from Jim Beam if we hadn't seen some of the craft distilleries pushing the envelope with using different grains and such? I just think it's fascinating. I think they're all connected in a very interesting way, and I can't wait to see. But I think there's a double-edged sword to that too, because I feel like we're also going to see a lot of these craft distilleries that opened up in the last 5 or 6 years that we're gonna know which ones that are in it to win it or which ones are going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
So, there's some. I think we'll see a little bit of condensing going on as well as we get further down the line. But craft distilleries, I think right now it's really where it's at. I think they're the ones pushing the envelope and innovating, and it's just, I mean, I love some of these new releases that distilleries come out with, and I'm really excited for the Wild Turkey 13, the Russell Reserve 13-year single barrel.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I want that so bad, but
agreed.
So it's great to see distilleries doing this, and Heaven Hill turns out a special edition like every other week, it looks like. But the other side of that too is I'm getting really sick of the source stuff that we're seeing in different bottles and different brands. If you're not educated to know what's in that bottle, I think it could be a tough go for a lot of people because, I mean, the amount of sourced Barton juice that's out there in a bevy of different labels with a bevy of different price points it's insane. I mean, how many of the 78.5 corn that beam profile did we see, and how many brands? I mean, Chicken Cock was asking $250 for it. Doc Swinson's had it for $120, $130. It was the same shit. Why am I paying $250 here, $130 here? It's the same stuff. That's what I mean. If you don't know what's out there, you don't know what's in the bottle, it gets tough. So that's why I've kind of moved past a little bit of the source stuff. So for me in my journey now, I get it so I could review it. But at the same time, I want to see what's new out there. What are these craft distilleries doing? How are they pushing the envelope? And what are they making that's different and unique? Why should I be checking them out with, except the other one down the street? So
yeah, I would say I'm an equal opportunity drinker, but with a pretty discerning palate. Like, I know what I like, and so I want to find that. And honestly, I don't care if it's 78.5 beam profile, because that's pretty good stuff. But I don't want to spend $250 for it. The Doc Swinson's unfortunately was not released in Wisconsin. Totally would about that for sure. But then there's also the reason I am doing this craft whiskey journey is because I wanted to taste 100 different ones and say, because I didn't know them very well. I want to say, what is good out there that I'm just not aware of, that I can, go find and drink and enjoy. And thankfully, folks have given me I've got so many samples that folks have sent me to help with it, and it's amazing. The community that help you explore it,
and that's really cool of you to do, and really smart, because I think it just opens your palate up to so many new types of, you talk about the Scotch guys talk about the differentiation in Scotch profiles across Scotland, and that's definitely a thing based on the terroir, the location, the style they make, peated, unpeated, sherried Scotch, non-sherried, coastal, salt, brininess.
It's crazy. Yeah,
it's crazy. You kind of look at the flip side with American whiskey, like, bourbon's bourbon. It's not really that anymore. American whiskey has such a grand scale now of flavor profiles. When you look at terroir and look at what they're making in, Washington State, into Colorado, going down into Texas, and that's a whole nother profile. Getting into Wisconsin and getting into what they're making here in Ohio, everything, especially if they're doing grain to glass, there's a very, very distinct opportunity to taste something very unique, very linear, very, something that's ubiquitous within their own state that makes it a true craft whiskey. And I think that's the beauty of it right now.
What's grinding your gears? Like, what are you seeing, whether it's in the bourbon media, whether it's in the industry, but what are you seeing that's just kind of chaps your butt cheeks?
I think one thing for me, secondary has always pissed me off. I mean,
elaborate on that.
Let's be honest. I still do. I'll go on secondary every now and again, especially if I have to get a bottle that I can't get myself. And the only way to acquire it sometimes is through secondary. And while I can appreciate that part of secondary, it's still a risk, and you're also getting fucking hosed on pricing. I think some brands stay close to the realm of retail, but anything Buffalo Trace gets blown up out of proportion, which really
way out of
proportion. A lot of the stuff that we see sourced from MGP, like New Riff, for example. New Riff released that 15-year, which was part of their old stocks.
Yeah.
That thing sold out in like 7 seconds. And I think 2 hours after the sale was over, I saw a guy had it on secondary for $1,500.
He probably didn't even have the bottle in hand.
He probably didn't have the bottle. He had a photo of it.
Yeah. Right.
Stuff like that, I think, it's gotten more cutthroat. It's gotten more ugly. I think people are utilizing secondary as a form of steady income now. It's not just a hobby.
Yeah. No, that's verified. People are doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's steady income. It's and you can't, if you fuck with that, they'll come after you. You can't, don't mess with their source of income.
Yeah.
And I get that part. But it's, the other side is people have built really great relationships to the secondary market as well. But I can't take the pricing. I think Dusty Bourbon, which was kind of like a really fun novelty, to get now, has very much gone in price, just outside of the realm of Wild Turkey 12-year cheesy gold foil. You could find that last year or the year before for about maybe $400 or $500 if you were lucky. Now it's going for $1,400, $1,500. So we're seeing this huge, and it seems every year the valuation of these bourbons, especially from Buffalo Trace, just go nuts. I don't know where these guys get the valuations from. It's a completely made up number. Based on the value and the rarity, I think this bottle is worth $2,000. Where are you getting that? Where does that? And what's sad is it trickles down to the liquor stores. Some of them they'll price some of these rare bottles accordingly depending on what secondaries has them at.
Yeah.
So that really
for the rest of us.
Yeah, that really chaps my ass. Also, the amount of sourcing, which I just mentioned, in multiple labels, multiple bottles. I can't take it. If I see one more freaking Barton sourced single barrel for $200, I'm gonna buy it and just smash it because I can't take it. It's too much of it. I mean, it's everywhere. You could say the same for MGP stuff, although the highly aged MGP stuff we're not going to be seeing anymore. That well has run dry.
Yeah.
So,
dude, although I gave this as a tip, I'm gonna throw it out here again because it's still on the shelf. But guys, Okay. Last time I'm going to tell you guys this, but this is 10-year MGP rye.
Yeah.
It was $90. You can go get it. It's a total. So
Yeah.
and you can still get a few of these redemption barrel proof MGP 9, 10-year, 11-year-old rye and bourbons for less than $100. I don't know why people aren't buying them. They're crazy.
Yeah, it's got a little crazy. I mean, I just hope some of these guys that are getting into another one that annoys me a little bit. And it's not everyone. I think there are some good names and celebrities that have got into the whiskey game that have made some decent products, but like Sweeten's Cove, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, dude. That's that.
Why am I paying $225 for a Dickel blend when I could get a 15-year single barrel that's high proof? Yeah, there you go for $60.
Yeah, and this is great stuff, man.
Yeah, it's great. Like the higher proof Dickel 15s are amazing. So it's some of that stuff because you put Marianne Eve's name on it, who I respect greatly. I think she does a great job. She knows what she's doing when it comes to blending. But you throw Peyton Manning's name on it, you throw a couple of famous golfers' names on it, and I'm going to pay $200 for that. I mean, I feel like there's a very thin line between trying to make something that means something and then just a money grab. And I think as we go further down the line here, that picture starts to become a lot clearer.
Yeah. Would you say do you think we're in a bubble, Jason? I mean, in like what goes up must come down. It's happened before. But what is your general assessment of where the whiskey industry is right now?
I still think we're far from seeing the bubble burst, honestly. I feel like now I do think there is some possible like people getting sick of the chase a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've sensed that in some people where a couple of guys that I know who spent the last couple of years chasing some of these bottles and wanting to collect, and as they kind of got in on it a little bit of an early stage. And now that there's so much more people, in on it and trying to score these bottles. And listen, I mean, as a whiskey tuber, I know I'm part of the problem.
Sure.
I'm part of the problem why some of these bottles go up in price on secondary and social media. I realize that. If I say that this freaking bourbon is one of the best I've had, I know there's an effect to that. And I think, as whiskey tubers, we have to own that. We can't shy away. That wasn't me. We have to own that part of it. We do contribute to some of the ridiculousness, unfortunately. But I think in some of my people that I know, especially locally here, I think they've just gotten kind of sick of the chase. They're starting to flip the switch where there's so much good whiskey now being made in the last several years that have hit the shelf now, that they don't feel like they need to chase all these single barrels and 13-year and the stuff. They're educated enough to know now what is available on the shelf, and they're just done. Now, whether that keeps going to more people as we go forward, time will tell.
It will. Yeah, my concern is that I'm hearing myself talk a little bit. Maybe I talk too loud. That happens to me in work meetings too. Either the gain's too high on my microphone, whoops, or I just talk way too loud. I think that there's so much whiskey being held below bars, among enthusiasts or people who are accumulating. Eventually they're going to want to liquidate that. No one. Like so many of us have more bourbon than we'll drink the rest of our lives. You have 600 some odd bottles, you're gonna die.
I'm not drinking.
Yeah, right. It's not no way. Yeah. So it's like with that knowledge, at some point, whether people pass away, odds are pretty good. I think I think there is a bubble because of this massive accumulation without consumption. Yes. Either tastes change, or the environment we're in is going to change. Probably before we pass away, to the point where we've got way more whiskey than we know what to do with, and we're going to want to try and get rid of it. We as general whiskey collector enthusiasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
When that happens, there's going to be just an unbelievable amount of unicorns, I think, that people are trying to get rid of through a secondary market, through auctions. And it's just going to be like everybody's going to be, $50,000 to $100,000 deep in whiskey that they actually can't get rid of in that moment.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, just watching the cyclical nature of beverage consumption, that it's going to go on for 40 years. I mean, I'm with you. I don't think we're going to see like a dramatic change in consumption in the next 5 to 10 years. At the same time, people do need to be careful, because don't just assume you're always going to be able to get rid of, your Four Roses barrel picks. Like it just may not be that way. So
I
exercise
agree.
caution. Proceed with caution.
Yeah, you just don't know when that like switch is going to flip on someone, where they're all in on getting as many single barrels and stuff as they can, and then they're just like, you know what, I'm okay just buying Old Forester 1920 the rest of my life. I'm good. So yeah. I think but as far as like a bubble bursting, I don't think we've gotten to that point yet. It's not. I don't think it's gotten to the point where I look at it as I compare it a lot to the beer boom. We spoke about that earlier. How many craft beers like hit at like that time where it was just like, I mean, it was nuts how many craft breweries were starting up.
Yeah, but I mean, in Milwaukee, we lost like half of them in the last 3 years.
So I think bourbon and American whiskey is kind of in the middle of that right now. I don't think it hasn't happened yet, because it's still, a lot of these distilleries are still pretty new. But I feel like it's going by the way that the beer industry did, where a lot of these guys are getting into it they really want to make whiskey, just like those guys really wanted to make beer, because everyone was making all these cool craft beers. And now we're making all these craft whiskeys. As we go forward here, what's going to happen? Is it going to be something that's sustainable, or are we going to start seeing some of those disappear, as we mentioned earlier, because the ones that are doing it right and the ones that are able to make it sustainable or playing the market in a smart fashion, we don't know how that's going to look down, over time as well.
Right. Embellish podcast drop an interesting comment. I think the U.S. as a whole is slowly trending to pre-prohibition alcohol consumption, roaring 20s, levels that will result in the whiskey boom lasting for another 20 years. Maybe Embellish, but here's another thing to watch is the health environment. Like, we are a culture, the Western Civ, that is more health focused than ever. And one of the biggest growing industries is nutrition. And if you look at sort of the alcohol industry, one of the biggest growth areas, seltzers, like a healthier alternative, and mocktails, non-alcoholic beers. You're seeing massive growth in that.
And what do they call them? Dry bars.
Right. So it's like there's actually some momentum against alcohol consumption, which is not bad. Alcohol is bad for you guys. We are poisoning our bodies with alcohol. That is the nature of this. Now it's not like poison at a level we can't handle. Drink in moderation. Please drink responsibly. All of that. But that said, that is part of the culture that we exist in, and that can gain momentum. Like, you just never know how far something like that will go. Like in Prohibition, it was like a moral approach. It wasn't health based. It was more morally based that resulted in prohibition. But you never know when you might have health regulations or taxes, as we've seen in tobacco, really cause problems for an industry. That said, I do think that, cigarettes should be taxed through the nose. I'm not pro cigarette. Yeah. That's neither here nor there. But we should watch out for that within alcohol.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, one more topic. I generally try and wrap this up at 10 because of work and family and that stuff. And that is, beyond the time you fell recording a video, what are some things you look back on and you're like, well, that was a fail? Either you left a bottle on the shelf. Like I can think of a couple bottles I'll name in a minute that I left on the shelf that I'm just like, why? Why did I do that? I didn't realize what I was looking at.
Man. I remember doing some crazy blind tastings in the beginning. And by the time I finished, I was drinking all this high proof stuff, and by the time I was done, I didn't remember what I picked, what was in what glass. Huge fail.
Just getting smashed doing
just
your
getting
tastings.
Smashed. And I always said, like, I don't want to drink enough. I'm going to get smashed because I don't have anybody next to me to pick me up. I got to carry this. So if I get drunk, that's it. The show's over. So I remember a
Yeah.
couple times that happening. That was kind of a big fail.
I feel like there's probably enough people watching YouTube videos though that they kind of tune in for that though. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
that's
I mean,
not
yeah, the FEO train moment with Fred Minnick was classic. That was an amazing interview. An amazing 2 days that we had, me and Fred. I think we're trying to do that again real soon. He was
great.
He was just in the thick of a wartime, so he's one of the tasters at San Francisco, and so he's been busy with that. So we're hoping to get something on the book soon.
Were there any particular bottles that you left on the shelf that you're just like, I can't believe that I can't believe I passed on that. I had a shot at it and I left it.
Oh man, which bottle? I mean, there's been a few. I'm trying to think. I did have. Yes, I had an opportunity back in the day to buy an Al Young Four Roses, and it was still pretty pricey for me at the time, and I kind of knew it was a special edition, but I didn't. It like Four Roses at the time didn't resonate enough with me that I felt like I should get that. And now that I look on it now, that's a bottle that I always regret not buying.
Yeah. If I ever had a shot at buying it and didn't buy it, I would regret that, but I never even had a shot. So.
Yeah, I had a shot. I was looking at it, like I was staring at it. And the guy's like, "Hey, we got this. It's a new one." I was like, that looks. I'm like, what's like? I just didn't know enough about what it meant in Four Roses, and I still when I am like looking on secondary to see what prices are at, I still see that bottle now, and now it's going for like $2,000. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's escalated for sure. Thankfully, Brian did let me try it, so I was able to at least try it.
And a cheaper bottle that I regret not buying a bunch when I first moved to Ohio, and I was kind of starting to buy bourbon a lot. There was a local store here that had like a whole fucking row of Elmer T. Lee's on the shelf.
Ooh, wow.
And I remember looking it up, Elmer T. Lee, $40, pretty solid bourbon, and I was like, I kind of passed on it, and God, did I wish I stocked up, because out of all the mash bill 2 stuff from Buffalo Trace, there's something about the Elmer T. Lee bottles that I really enjoy, and I just wish I was able to get more of it, and I wish I fucking stocked up on that so bad. I really do.
Yeah, I've never had a bottle of Elmer, never had a bottle of Rock Hill Farms, but out of the 2, I've had pours. I think I would take Rock Hill Farms out of the 2.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of I could see. I've only ever had one bottle of Rock Hill Farms, so and my single barrel that I have, it's good, but I still prefer Elmer T. Lee better. But I can imagine there's probably some really amazing single barrels of Rock Hill Farms that are out there that I haven't gotten to try. So,
yeah. I could have bought 6 of the Ezra Brooks 12-year, the blue wax.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were just sitting on the bottom shelf in a liquor store, and the wax was all messed up, which made me hesitate. I'm like, like it looks like somebody tampered with this stuff, and I didn't really know about it. This was in like 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
And then, eventually somebody got wise and they're like, screw it, I'm buying it. I'm drinking it. I don't care what the wax looks like. And so that was brutal. And then early on, I had a shot at Elijah Craig 18 for $80, which, you'll never find it anywhere close to that now. But that was before I had ever bought my first bottle of Elijah Craig, period. I remember texting a friend and I said, hey, there's Elijah Craig 18 here for 80. And he's like, well, it's pretty good. Get it if you want it. But I was like, 80 is so much. Like early, when you get into it, 50 seems like a lot, Yeah. And so I was like, I'm not going to do that. So then I bought standard Elijah Craig and I loved it. It was great. But now I'm like, wow, I could have bought Elijah Craig 18 for $80 and I did not. In Wisconsin, most of the fines, like, oh yeah, I see that. I've bought them. It's hard to mess up too much because there's just not that much stuff here. But those 2 in particular are ones like I should have done that.
Yeah, Yeah,
But
and it's hard when you're out and you're bourbon hunting, especially in different states. It's hard not to pull the trigger on a bottle, especially even if it's if it's overpriced or over retail, because there's always that part of you that just always thinks, I don't know if I'll ever see it again. So
yeah,
you know,
yeah. The last time I saw Stag Junior was a few years ago, and it was $80, and I passed on it at 80 because I had been seeing it for 60 and 65, and
oh,
then I
dude,
never saw
yeah,
it
you
again.
never see it again.
Man, come on!
Yeah, that's like
And
my
I'm
dream. That's like my dream barrel pick to do, is I do one of those Stag Junior picks that are hitting the market. But that's
well, you can't complain because you got to do an Elijah Craig barrel proof
yeah,
pick, and
I'm doing an Elijah Craig barrel proof pick next week, so that's not too bad.
yeah. Cam jumped on here, drums and drams. Love this collab. The entry proof picks are killer. The rye is special, and the apple brandy finish is quickly becoming my daily. That's awesome to hear. As I said, I haven't had them since we picked them, so 2 weeks from now we'll pop them on the live stream, and that will be
Tell me, so
times.
these are is he's talking about the Starlight picks?
Yeah. So we did two Starlight picks.
So what exactly what were the two type that you guys did?
So we did a 4-year double oaked rye.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, we tasted probably 3 or 4 ryes, and that one carried the least amount of grain. I didn't get noticeable young whiskey on that. And there was a nice balance of like oaky depth, along with that 95.5 spicy rye. I just love that rye mash bill. And then the apple brandy bourbon we picked, that's 5 years old. Brian says the rye was also 5. I thought it was 4, but great.
So when you say, so this was bourbon finished in an apple brandy cask?
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
So cask strength. And so we tasted quite a few bourbons, but then we tasted one apple brandy, and I was like, this is good. It's very sweet, but that's kind of it. It's very sweet, brandy forward bourbon. And then we asked, do you have another one we can taste? And this one was just like 2 barrels closer to the window. Seemed like it was in a slightly hotter part of the room, and just delivered a lot more oak. Like, it has a lot of oak in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, super easy drinking, candy all over.
A Ben in bourbon in the chat, he said Zach Cooperage on the apple brandy. I feel like your finishes, when you look for a finished bourbon or finished whiskey or even a toasted, I think that barrel that you're finishing in, it's important where you're getting that from, because I've tasted so many different types of toasted flavor profiles, and I just really, I don't know, toasted stuff never really like did it for me. But then when we got to do our 4-gate pick, this is a shameless plug, but I'm just saying,
we did our you just got to pay it back at some point.
Yeah, exactly. When we did our 4-gate pick, and we got a properly toasted barrel from Kelvin Cooperage that toasted our 8-year MGP rye at cask strength. They pulled it out after like 32, 33 days. They said that's enough. And we got to try this stuff. It gave me none of the stuff that I dislike about other toasted products I've had. And I was like, well,
toasteds are hit or miss, man.
Yeah. I'm like, this is always, I've wanted always the graham cracker marshmallow, but I still wanted to keep that, that like the backbone of what a good MGP, I still want citrus in it, and I still want spice without like that weird, like tannic finish that a lot of toasted products give you.
Yeah, I agree. I think Michter's are hit or miss in that some of their stuff can be quite good, but some of it is crazy tannic and just like,
yes, exactly.
And when it gets overly tannic like that, to me, it's repulsive. I just can't. It almost makes me want to retch.
Yeah, Will Rush in the chat. Toasted can get over bitter, and that's exactly what I thought about the Elijah Craig toasted that they released. It just got. I mean, it got good. There was a sweet point, like where it got really good, like halfway down the bottle. It just took a while to get there.
I think I've heard that it seems like batches varied quite a bit. The bottle I've had open, I've enjoyed it at pretty much at every stop, but I've heard folks say that there are some that are pretty rough.
Yeah,
but it'd be interesting to do a lineup of the different batches.
And I think that's just inherent of toasting. You don't know what part of the whiskey is going to interact and where it's exactly. I mean, aging could be a big part of it if it's sitting there in the wherever it is. All that stuff's a factor. You never know.
Yeah. I think we've covered it. I think we've gone through the agenda. Anybody have any questions for Jason before we wrap this thing up? Or any off topics you want us to run on? For what he said, he was going to record a video, so I don't want to hold him too much longer. But
I'm only doing the B-roll tonight, so you're safe.
Oh, okay. Well, your B-roll's top notch.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Do you use a gimbal or you just freehand that?
I have like this real technical setup where I put a thick towel on the floor and I drag it as I'm
nice. No, I've seen nice. I've seen people do that. That's awesome. You got to make it work. Like I said, I use an IKEA lamp. So
yeah, I do have a I did invest in a slider, which allows me to do moving pics with me in it because I control it with my phone.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
so that's a cool little handy tool to have. But yeah, I like to doing the B-roll. I know, I've gotten comments on some videos that the B-roll is a little bit, much. We don't really need it. We just want to hear your take on the whiskey. But honestly, the B-roll is more for me because I'm a creative person. It allows me to unleash my creativity a little bit. So ideas I have about how I can make this shot cool, I want to film it. And, if you don't want to watch it, you could always fast forward. But it's a creative outlet for me as well, not just, the love of the whiskey. So
sure. Yeah, 100%. And I think, while some folks may say it doesn't matter too much now, it will. Like when you started making videos, there weren't that many people making videos.
Yeah.
We were talking, Jason and I were talking before we went live that, COVID brought the advent of the whiskey tuber, which is fun. It's a lot of, like, I came in September, so it's like I'm a product of that. So I cannot hate on it whatsoever. But it just means that there's a lot of people hustling now, and there's only so many of us who actually want to consume whiskey content. So I would say it's a positive differentiator in your stuff. Is the audio quality is great, visual quality is great, and then it's whiskey porn. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, as long as I'm going to hear somebody talk, I might as well look at something that's lovely. And no offense, but the whiskey is beautiful, and I don't know if I had to look at a picture of Jason or a picture of whiskey all day.
Oh, dude, I'm with you. Yeah. I'd rather look at whiskey than myself. I'm with you, man.
Yeah, right. So yeah, any other questions for Jason before we wrap up? Jason, you seen anything come through here?
Let's see. Your B-roll's amazing. Even bottom of the barrel can be different. Your B-roll game is top notch. B-roll's awesome, especially when the song matches the. Yeah, thank you, Justin. Thanks for noticing that. A lot of people don't realize that I try to match the music with the bottle.
In what way do you do that?
It's I don't know. It's a kind of a feel thing. Like if I for a peated whiskey, I get something like a hard rock because it's just it's kind of punch in the face. Something with like a finish on it. Like the Stellum bourbons, like Stellum meets Star. So I try to look for something a little bit more cosmic, in the music. So I don't know. It's just like stuff like that. I do think of that stuff. Leo Chop says I have a poster of Jason in my bedroom. There, that's fucking freaky.
And Andrew Spurl says Jason has the best D roll.
That's right. It's all about the D.
Oh man.
I see a collab barrel pick from Abandoned Bourbon. We could do that.
Yeah, well, we can work on it. It sounds like you guys have got a full agenda, but yeah, if you ever need help, just reach out to us. We're available. We make it work. We're working on our stuff. And it's slow going, but there's kind of two ways to look at it. Is one way is this is our hobby, so everything we get to do is great, awesome. That's so dope. I am a Enneagram type 3, and so we won't talk about Enneagram, but bottom line is I tend to view things as competition unnecessarily. And so it's like an important part of my personal growth to be like, it's fine. Like other people will do things that you don't get to do, and that is okay. Like you get to do things other people don't get to do, and that's fine. Like, it's not a competition. It's not like your self-worth is not wrapped up in comparing yourself to other whiskey tube channels. So just take a chill pill. And be appreciative for what you have. And
that's the beauty of Whiskey Tube as it stands today. There are so many different channels. You could kind of pick your like not only like who you're. I feel like there's a channel if you just want to be entertained with some whiskey involved, and then there's a channel for you if you want a little bit more if you really want to get in depth of someone's like palate that you trust. And then there's, then there's ones that are just more conversational. I think, what do they say? Variety is the spice of life. There's something for everybody.
Yeah. And that's why YouTube is taking off so much, is like, whereas pop media is just that. It's pop media. Whiskey or YouTube, Whiskey Tube, even. Whiskey Tube is an example where you can get content and media that's engineered specifically to your interests. And so like anybody can get on and say anything, but then you can choose exactly what you want to listen to. Yeah, and while that's fun, that's engaging, there's a dark side to it too, because it reinforces groupthink, conspiracy theories, other problems in our society. That's not great. But it does, in terms of just sheer entertainment, it means you can curate what you watch and extract a lot of joy out of your entertainment consumption, which is I pretty dope.
As shitty as COVID was, it did, kind of launch a whole new breed of whiskey tubers, and it kind of brought the community a little bit closer together. And there was more collaboration. There was more cross streaming. It was great. That's what, Fred Minnick told me is like, whole COVID he wasn't really writing. So he decided to start a whiskey tube channel. And the first thing that I said to him when he was, we were kind of chatting backstage like we did, before we went live, he goes, yeah, this whole thing, it's been kind of a wild ride. I haven't really been writing. I'm like, congrats, Fred. You're now a whiskey tuber. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, are you like knighting me right now? Like, yes, you are a whiskey tuber. It's happened. You've been a whiskey tuber for a while. You just didn't know it yet.
Nice. You use the term cross streaming, which that's a pretty, that's a stark visual.
Yeah, sure. That's a little bit dirty, isn't it? East 78-210. The ECBP pick, we were told, were 12 weeks out because of the demand. So we're picking it next week. So we probably won't see it until wintertime, unfortunately. But that's a lot of the distilleries are having some a lot of demand, and some of the picks that are coming from the bigger distilleries are very delayed. Huge wait list. Some of them are holding back barrels now because so many people are wanting to do picks in today's realm that they have to, like, they got to hold some of these barrels back so they could keep the supply chain going and stop giving away their single barrels. So that's actually what happened with Woodinville. Woodinville told us after we did our picks that they're like, we don't have many picks slated for the rest of the year because of supply chain issues.
Wow.
So I think we're seeing a lot of that. And if you have a chance to do a pick, man, I just say, I don't care what the hell it is, do it. You can always find something good and unique out there.
Yeah. And I think that's the wonder of the single barrel, is particularly if we're working with a distillery that'll let you browse, you can probably find something good on their shelf. They'll let you taste a lot of stuff. If you're just rolled out 3 barrels, like a Knob Creek pick, it may be a little bit harder, but most craft distilleries will let you peruse a little bit.
Yeah, I would like to do something with maybe barrel bourbon or even like Penelope bourbon, like doing like a custom blend of something. I think that's always fun. We did our first custom blend with Rye 3, which people are starting to get their bottles now, which was a lot of fun to do. But kind of doing that with a bigger brand would be fun as well.
Brian Pulver says he loves the cross streaming. Don't stop. I don't think it'll stop. I think generally people like it. Like, it's fun. It's fun to get together and just talk about whiskey, and folks that can kind of learn from those of us who have spent way too much time learning and drinking bourbon. But
yeah, I get sick of listening to myself during my reviews. When I'm doing a live stream, it's kind of fun to bounce stuff off people and get a different perspective. So
sure, yeah. The editing part of like producing a video and then like get it ready is you spend 30 minutes to an hour of recording the video, and then you spend 2 hours, 3 hours getting the video ready, and it's like, this is not fun.
You have a couple questions in the chat real quick if you want to answer those before we get off.
Yeah, sure. Just briefly, we'll try and hit them. I see JCB, Drew P, Michter's 10, bourbon or barrel strength rye. Dude, that depends so much. Like, they're both great. I really like the barrel strength rye, really unique rye. I haven't tasted a rye that tastes like Michter's barrel strength rye. But I really like Michter's 10 bourbon too.
I vote barrel strength.
So it depends on the day.
I vote barrel strength rye hands down. Go get it.
If you have to choose, I'd probably agree with you, but it depends on the day. Like there's some days I really like that Michter's 10 bourbon.
Yeah.
Tom Lynch, what is the deal with Russell's Reserve 13 coming up? Dude, if I could get a Russell's Reserve 13, I'll go super deep on Russell. I'm drinking a little bit of Russell's Reserve single barrel right now. It's amazing. And
the Russell Reserve 13, I can tell you real quick, it's a non-chill filtered 13-year offering from Wild Turkey. It just got bottled, I think, last week or the week before. It came off the bottling line, and
three weeks ago,
people were sharing photos of it, and it should be hitting any moment now. You just kind of never know with this stuff, so people have their eyes out for it. It's a white and blue label, so if you see a Russell's Reserve with a white and blue label, pick me up about 6 of them and let me know.
Yeah, right. Well, this is first you got to pay dues. This is my channel. Make sure I get one, and then we'll
get one to Drew. Get one to Drew first, and then if there's time left over, get one to Drew first. There's time left over. You could throw me one.
Yeah, we'll make it work. All right, squad. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Again, a reminder, if you want your shot at the entry proof barrel picks, the very first ones ever, get down in the show notes and get them in the now. The password when you click on that link is entry proof. And because later tonight, they're going to go out to Brian's and my local Facebook groups. And then tomorrow they are going live to the Sealbox community. So if you want one of those, get it now. Enjoy it. Have fun with that. Big thanks to Jason for jumping on the stream. That was tons of fun. I love doing these chats and these interviews with folks that are just absolutely crushing it in the whiskey content sphere. So Jason, definitely appreciate your time, man. I don't take that for granted. I know you're busy. You're doing a lot of stuff every night. So it's just a privilege to host you.
No, dude, I appreciate you having me on, and we'll definitely have to return the favor. You got to come on. We'll do maybe we'll do some kind of I'm really interested in what you've tasted craft whiskey wise. So maybe you can do maybe you and I can collaborate on doing like a really cool craft whiskey scream on my channel one night. So
yeah, that sounds dope. I do plan on, after I get to 100, I'm gonna do a top 10 or the best craft whiskey I tried in 2021 out of 100. So yeah, we'll make it happen. It'll be rad.
Absolutely, man.
All right, nation. If you want to support the channels, if you want to get an Elijah Craig barrel proof barrel pick, you should go to Jason's Patreon, which the link is in this chat somewhere. But I'll throw it in the show notes as well. But also, if you want to support the Entry Proof podcast and the Droopy Whiskey channel, you can do that in the Patreon link below. For those of you who have listened to this in podcast form, hey, thanks. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it made your drive to work a little bit better. Makes you jazzed to get home and pop the top on some whiskey, sip it slowly. Hope you all have a good rest of your evening. Go to sleep, drink a lot of water, nourish yourselves. That would be a really solid plan. But as always, just stay healthy, stay safe, and remember to keep it neat. See ya.
Cheers, guys.